A warm welcome for today's press briefing for the delivery of the second European service module for NASA's Orion spacecraft. My name is Ralf Heinrich and I'm from the comms team of Airbus. Before we start, allow me some remarks about the speaker and the program. With us here today is Kathy Kerner, NASA's Orion Program Manager, Philippe Delot, ESA's Orion ESM Project Manager. We have also Mike Horst, Lockheed Martin Orion Program Manager, and Didier Radola, Orion ESM Program Manager from Airbus. The program is that you will allow me some housekeeping remarks, then we will show you a video to warm up with the latest images and pictures from the Airbus clean room of the ESM. Then we will have a short introduction of the speakers, and then we have a Q&A session, and we expect to close our press briefing at around 11:45. The conference language is English. The briefing is on the records. For Q&A, I'd like to ask you to press the raise your hand button down at the bottom of the Google Meet app, and I will then call you up one after the other. For the meeting, I ask you to stay on mute, and we will have a recording of the whole session available afterwards at ESA TV and Airbus YouTube channel. We issued a press release, and also the latest images and videos and more material will be available under airbus.com and at esa.int. And I think now it's time for the video, and allow me to walk you through a bit with a few comments. So here you can see the loading of the ESM-1. So ESM-2 is the Airbus-built European Service Module is ready for the delivery from the Airbus site in Bremen. Here you can now see on the left-hand side ESM-3, which is currently in the clean room, and also ESM-2. The ESM will provide propulsion, power, thermal control, and more elements for the astronauts. And after a comprehensive validation process, we have now reached the level for delivery. You can see here, for instance, one of the test elements, the gimbal test. It's a main engine, which is a former Space Shuttle Atlantis engine. After completion and transfer to Kennedy Space Center, we will also then have in the US a further test campaign, which will last around 2 years. And the ESM comprises more than 20,000 parts and several kilometers of cables. And we also have several thrusters with us, so one main engine and 32 thrusters. This is the solar array test in Ohio at NASA premises. And last but not least, to mention the Orion spacecraft enables 4 astronauts to be transported to the moon and even further into space than ever. So I think with a warm-up, we already have a good mood for now the introduction of our 4 program managers, and I would like to ask Didier Radola in Bremen to start. Didier, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So, yeah, today for Airbus is really a special day because, as you said here, behind us, there is ESM-2, and this ESM-2, the European Service Module number 2, is ready to be delivered to NASA. So, in the coming days, an Antonov will fly ESM-2 from Bremen here to NASA. To NASA Kennedy Space Center, and when arrived in NASA, so ESM-2 will be mated with the crew module, and will undergo a lot of testing before at the end it's mating on the SLS launcher. So ESM-2 is not the first of the series, the second. The first one, so 1 year ago, was undergoing also a number of tests in KC, coupled with the crew module, and we are now really looking forward to the launch soon in the frame of Artemis 1. ESM-2 is really a special one because it will be the first European Service Module that will be used for a crewed mission. It will be the first mission in the frame of Artemis program that will fly astronauts around the moon and back to Earth, of course. And it will be the first since Apollo 17, already 15 years ago. So it's a very important mission to us. When it comes to industrial aspect, let's imagine that 1 year ago at ESM2 here in Bremen, all our activities were a little bit curbed because of the pandemics. It was very difficult to get hardware here in our clean room, even more complicated to get people, especially people from our subcontractors in Europe, to get there to support the integration. But nevertheless, thanks to the tremendous effort that everybody has done, and really I would like to thank all the industrial consortium with that. People have worked 24 hours a day in 3-shift mode, delaying their holidays in order to deliver as soon as possible. It was really an amazing effort, and now we are there. Few words about Artemis ESM Industrial Consortium. So it's 10 countries around Europe plus US. It's 18 first-tier suppliers, subcontractors, and it's about 3,000 people in Europe involved in ESM program. So a lot of people around. And as you know, ESM is the European contribution to Artemis program, and it's very important for us to show that Europe, Airbus, and also ESM Industrial Consortium is really a reliable partner. When it comes also to industrial matters, we want, and our goal is really to improve our development cycle. So we have learned a lot with ESM1 already, and we have implemented a lot of lessons learned on ESM2. We are doing the same also for ESM3, so you see here ESM3 just behind me. And we will do also for, of course, for the model, our objective being really to improve our development cycle at each model. And according to the last contract we have signed with ESA this year concerning the delivery of ESM 4 to 6, we will deliver an ESM model every year. So we are working a lot also to put in place this production line. Yeah. Just to conclude, I would like to say that we are absolutely proud here in Airbus to be the prime contractor of ESA, European Space Agency, for this really extraordinary contract. And also I feel very proud of what we have done here all together in this clean room, but not only in the clean room, with all the people working on this program. And especially I have a special thought for all the industrial consortium during this time. And so we are doing our best here. So Flight to the Moon, really, it's an amazing story, an amazing program. It's probably the dream. It's probably the dream of all people working in aerospace. And here we measure really the chance and the honor we have to serve this unique program.
Thank you very much, Didier. And the next speaker is Philippe Delot. Philippe, please.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Philippe Delot, and I'm working for the European Space Agency. I'm very pleased to be here today to tell you a little bit about the European Service Module and the ESA contribution to the Artemis program. As you most probably know, the Artemis program objective is to explore space beyond low Earth orbit with the crew, with astronauts. It will start by going to the moon, and ultimately it is expected to go to Mars. The ESA contribution to the Artemis program is twofold. On one side, we have contribution to the gateway. The gateway with the two elements, the habitation module, and the other one being the propulsion module. Sorry, not the propulsion module. refueling module, which is called Esprit. The habitation module will provide crew quarters for the astronauts. And on the other side, we have the contribution to the Orion program with the provision of the ESM for the Orion's vehicle that will be part of all the Artemis mission to come. The cooperation between ESA and NASA on the Orion program is going a step beyond to all the cooperation that have taken place between the two agencies up to now. The service module is a major critical mandatory system of the Orion system. Without the service module, there is no Orion. Without Orion, there is no Artemis mission, no program, and no exploration beyond low Earth orbit with a crew. So this type of cooperation requires a mutual trust between agencies at a very high level. And we are very proud of having built that over the years of working with NASA. As Didier said, the service module is built by a European consortium from 10 European countries. The consortium is led by Airbus, and the major contributor is Germany, but closely followed by Italy, France, other contributors being Switzerland, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. I guess I will not surprise you by saying that the European Service Module incorporates the finest state-of-the-art technology from European companies. This has been built over the years, working in the human spaceflight domain, and in particular, it's a spin-off of the ATV, the logistic module that provided logistics to the space station very successfully for 5 times. To tell you about the overall status of the program, the development of the European Service Module started 10 years ago. We had a first meeting in Johnson Space Center in May 2011, where the subject of discussion was the possibility for ESA to provide or to perform the development of the service module and provide the first element. Since that time, there's been a lot of water that has gone under the bridges, and now we have a major solid program which is running full speed. The first service module is now integrated with the Orion vehicle for the first Artemis mission. The second service module is the one which is here in Bremen, ready for shipment next week to Kennedy. The third one, you can see behind me over there, is undergoing integration. The 4th, 5th, and 6th unit they've been ordered by ESA to Airbus, and the procurement of their hardware is ongoing. And right now, ESA is very busy preparing a request for a proposal from Airbus for the provision of the service module 7, 6, and 8. I would like to conclude my speech by stating that the success story of the ESM program has paved the way for the European astronauts to explore the moon and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Didier. And now I would like to hand over to Mike Horse from Lockheed Martin. Mike, please.
All right, thank you very much. I am Mike Haas, and I have the privilege of being the Lockheed Martin program manager for the Orion program. And very similar to Didier's comments, Lockheed Martin on the US side leads a large industrial consortium of several suppliers, thousands of people working not just across the US, but also across Europe. So next week is a very exciting week for us in the US because of so much activity at the Kennedy Space Center. Not only do we expect to see ESM-2 arrive, we also expect to move the Artemis 1 Orion over to be mated with the Space Launch System. And we also expect to see the delivery of the main pressure vessel for Artemis 3 Orion. So it's quite a lot of activity coming on, very similar to what the rest of my colleagues here have talked to. I would note, though, that it's also a real pleasure to be back here in Bremen after so many months of dealing with the pandemic and having to work remotely. The teams have done an amazing job working remotely where we can and still maintaining schedule and working so hard to bring this mission to completion. So I really have to thank all of our teams in going through this very well. So I would say that we have developed, it's I think, an interesting story in that in many arenas, Lockheed Martin and Airbus are fierce competitors. On Orion, we are very close partners. And so we have developed a relationship over time that has a great deal of trust and respect between the two teams. And we are ready for the delivery of the ESM-2. We are ready to get into testing, to mate with the crew module adapter that we have built, and then get into a very rigorous test program that Didier talked about. And so, again, congratulations to the team here in Bremen for getting to this part, and to the industrial consortium across Europe that has gotten us here, and we are ready to catch ESM-2 when she comes across the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And now I would like to hand over to Kathy Kerner from NASA. Thank you for being with us, Kathy. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. And I am Kathy Kerner. I am the NASA Orion Program Manager, and it really is my honor to be here in Bremen to celebrate the second European Service Module as it gets ready to ship to us in the United States. The international effort that NASA and ESA and Airbus and all of our contractors have put into Orion has truly been remarkable, especially in light of this pandemic and the environment we find ourselves in as a result. Since the beginning of this process, our teams have really worked tremendously well together, proven that an international partnership can be successful, and also proven that we can build a spacecraft on different continents and different organizations and all come together for a successful mission. When Artemis 1 flies in the next few months, we'll all celebrate the success of that mission. Currently, the Artemis 1 Orion spacecraft is fully assembled, integrated with the European Service Module named Bremen after the location that I'm in today. Excited about that. It's integrated and it's waiting to be stacked on the Space Launch System rocket for launch later this year or early next year. We have certainly tested our spacecraft over the years in a number of different locations. The Airbus-provided Orion qualification module was tested at the White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico to ensure that our propulsion system on our Orion spacecraft would be successful. Our team jointly conducted verification and acoustics testing campaign with the European Service Module structural test article built by Thales Alenia Space in Italy. The tests performed at our NASA Neil Armstrong Test Facility in Sandusky, Ohio, confirmed that the service module was ready to support the demanding loads of a lunar mission. More recently at Armstrong, both of our agencies collaborated on thermal and electromagnetic testing of the integrated Artemis 1 service module and crew spacecraft inside the vacuum chamber. The essential testing showed that the spacecraft can endure the environments of space. The campaign was successful in large part due to the tremendous international team efforts working tirelessly around the clock. Not only is ESM-1 ready to launch, but we are excited to have the ESM-2 about to ship to the United States for its final assembly and integration with the Orion Artemis 2 spacecraft. Meanwhile, also, as you heard from Didier and from Philippe earlier, the ESM-3 structural article is here, and it's being outfitted for eventual integration into the Artemis 3 mission. The Orion spacecraft as a whole and as a program would not be possible without the dedication, the time, and the effort of our team members, both within our agencies, but also our contractor workforce. Our international partners play a key role in achieving the Artemis mission objectives and ensure a safe, peaceful, and prosperous lunar exploration activity. Congratulations on this incredible milestone, and we look forward to this continued successful partnership on Artemis missions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. So now I would like to open the Q&A session with the introduction of 3 more experts we have with us. We have remotely connected Didier Schmidt, Strategy and Coordination Group Leader at ESA's Directorate of Human and Robotics Exploration. We have also with us in Bremen, Nico Detman, ESA's Lunar Exploration Group Leader. And we have also Andreas Hammer, Airbus Head of Space Exploration with us. So we have full competence for all your questions. For questions, please raise your hand, press the button with the Google app. I will then call you one after the other. When I call you, please unmute yourself. After the question, please go on mute again. And it would be great if you can also name your publication. So we have first Peter de Selding. Peter, please, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Ralph. And Peter de Selding from Space Intel Report. Just a couple of broad questions. Didi, I believe you were talking about doing triple shifts on this to overcome the problems and the delays inherent in COVID's restrictions on travel by people and delivery of machinery. So that normally means excess budget. So for ESA, I guess the question is, what effect has this had on the budget? Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the delivery of ESM2, meaning going out of Bremen toward KSC, is pretty much on time. So you've had to make up the COVID stuff by triple shifts. And then a related question, not really related, but I guess, I believe, Philippe, you were talking about the latest Airbus bid for ESMs 7 and 8. Is that 7 and 8? Am I correct, or is it 7, 8, and 9? Thanks.
So, if you may, I take that question. To start with the last one. So, indeed, it is correct that the batch B, we call it, is composed of ESM 7, 8, and 9. Regarding your question on the delay, which actually did not occur, and potential additional cost because of COVID, yes, there is a claim on the table, and we are about to discuss it and also consolidate with our member states and how far those claims are to be considered.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask you to press the raise your hand button if you want to ask a question. Then I can call you up. Next one is Frederick Lune. Frederick, please go ahead.
Hello, thank you. I'm from the Danish national radio station, Radio 4, where I'm a space reporter. I have a question. I was on Airbus website where it states that it's the first time NASA will use European-built system as a critical element to power a human spaceflight mission. And my question is rather simple. Why first now?
So I think that is a question which maybe goes more to ESA. As you know, we have been cooperating with NASA in diverse corporations. We have built ATVs. We have been flying them to low Earth orbits to the International Space Station. It is the first time after Apollo that there is another approach to fly to the moon, and we are very happy that this is done in an international cooperation. So why this is started now, 50 years after Apollo, that's a difficult question, but we are happy where we are now.
Maybe Kathy wants to add to this question. Kathy, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people know that that NASA has been had been flying space shuttles and then the International Space Station. We are currently flying the International Space Station, and that has cooperation between NASA and ESA as well. So as we have evolved and retired the shuttle and now are establishing capability in the United States to launch our astronauts into space, we are developing the next generation of spacecraft, and that's what Artemis is and the Orion spacecraft is. It's the next generation of spacecraft. And so in the evolution of our space exploration, the moon is our next destination, and we're excited to have this partnership between ESA and NASA and all of our supporting contractors to take that next step. And as we take that next step with our Artemis 1 test mission and then our first crewed mission, Artemis 2, we look forward to the first human landing on the moon in our generation.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So the next question is from Antoine Monnier. Antoine, please go ahead. Name your publication, please. Antoine? Oh, no question, sorry. So I ask again, if you have a question, please press the button, raise your hand, and then I will call you up. Okay, Peter, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Well, yes, while Catherine Kerner's got the microphone, a lot of people have lost money trying to bet on when SELS's first launch would be, so I don't want to ask you to lose more money on that, but you said late this year or early next year. Could you put a finer pointer on that, or it's just not prudent to do so at this time? Thanks.
I wish I could put a finer point on that. You know, as you heard us talk about a little bit earlier, this has really been an unprecedented time, especially in this COVID environment. And COVID has hit in various places around the world at different times and at different levels. And so we have seen COVID swings up and down in various places where we assemble both the Orion spacecraft, but also the Space Launch System rocket. And so that has hit some of our areas, especially at the Kennedy Space Center, where we have had to assemble and integrate the spacecraft and the rocket. And so the team there are the ones really that set the launch date, as they are fueling our spacecraft and they're integrating it and putting all the piece parts together. So I don't have a better date for you. I wish I did, but the team there is working as hard as they can, again, in this unprecedented environment to get us launched.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question comes from Ann Bauer. Ann, please go ahead. Ann, we cannot hear you. You have to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I forgot.
No problem.
Do you hear? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, could you remind us what is the budget for these 3 ESM module? What are the main difference with the next one? You said that 4, 5, 6 are on the track, but that 6, 7, 8 are maybe coming further. Can you give us budget and schedules?
I can take that. So the overall ESM contract we are having with Airbus, and this includes the development of the service module, but also the first 6 flight units, is in the order of €2 billion. And ESM 7 to 8, this is the next batch of ESMs we are going to negotiate. And these ESMs will be required to further pay off obligations we have in the ISS, but also possibly contributions to the gateway.
And yeah,
just a precision. When you said 6, 7, 8, we have to negotiate. Are they going to be very different? Is it new spacecraft, or is it the same thing, sort of?
I said 7, 8, 9, and they are supposed to be fully recurring. The only change we are seeing is, as you might know, we are currently flying reuse of a shuttle engine, and since those engines are not coming back, and the storage of the stock of those engines is expiring with the service module number 6. NASA is currently developing a replacement engine. We are expecting that this is an engine which will fit the design, but we cannot exclude that some adaptation studies have to be done. But this would be then for ESM 7.
Okay, Many thanks. Do we have further questions? If so, please press a button, raise your hand, and I will call you up. So we have, for the moment, no further questions, but then I can ask Didier Schmidt, can you give us a brief statement from your position? That would be appreciated.
Yes, indeed. I mean, thank you very much for all the interventions, which were, of course, more oriented technically. Well, let's say a few words more on this, on the long-term strategy. Obviously, we have here, as you have understood, a very nice mechanism with NASA to work together to go much beyond the ISS program. The Space Shuttle has been mentioned. We have been fully part of the Space Shuttle program with the Space Lab missions. We're fully partners in the ISS, and ATVs have been mentioned. And now we go further. And this is really significant because, you know, the ISS is at 400 kilometers altitude and the moon is at 400,000. So that is a big leap for us and for NASA, again, half a century after the Apollo mission. So what we are doing is really embedded in something really much larger, which is the exploration of the moon on a sustainable manner this time. So which means that ESM, Orion, they go around the moon, fine, but that's not the objective. Starting with Artemis 3 and later on, we have to go to the gateway. And therefore, this is the major objective, going to the gateway where we are fully partners also with NASA. And ultimately, of course, to step back on the moon. And there also we are in negotiation and coordination with NASA to see how we can get to that next step as well. Very clearly, the ESMs are part of a barter agreement with NASA, and we have already secured 3 astronaut seats on board, and of course going to the gateway.
Thank you very much, Didier. Do we have further questions? Please press the button, raise your hand, or unmute yourself and then give your name and publication and raise a question. Peter, please.
Yeah, sorry, another one for Catherine Kerner. Catherine, as you know, there's always a problem on these programs of a contractor trying to be on an original schedule and then the customer not needing the hardware until much later. So the contractor invests a lot of time and sweat equity in being on schedule when it's not really needed at the end. For ESM2, does NASA need this thing now? In other words, if I'm Airbus looking back at triple shifting over a period of months and the past 12 months, was that time well spent, or is this thing going to be sitting around and it could have been delivered in 6 months without any problem? Thanks.
Yeah, schedules are always complex when you have a complex spacecraft. And what I will tell you is that we are constantly evolving the schedules based on our suppliers being able to provide the hardware and being able to provide the elements that get integrated into the spacecraft. If you look at the spacecraft behind me, you'll see it has lots of piece parts to it, and all of those piece parts have to eventually come together for an integrated spacecraft. I will tell you that our original schedules on both sides had us delivering the ESM well before today or this week. But we are adjusting our schedules accordingly based on the delivery and the availability of the hardware and the testing that is required. Because as you spacecraft for the first or the second or third time in something, when you look at something in the testing, things fail or don't as expected. You plan how you're going to assemble, and those plans change as you have to adjust and accommodate not just the delivery schedule changes, but all the hardware difficulties assembling things. So I will tell you, we would love to have launched 2 years ago. I would love to be able to launch tomorrow, but we will launch when it's safe to do so, and we'll launch ready to do so.
Thank you, Kathy. The next question comes from Antoine Meunier. Please go ahead, Antoine.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned to deliver 1 ESM a year, and the ESM3 is just behind you. But when will you be ready to deliver the ESM3?
I think the question is for Andreas. Andreas, please.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks for the question. Actually, as you can see, it's already ready for being integrated. We are working it on already. So the plan currently is to have the ESM3 delivered, I think, 1st of December next year, 22. Even though we see some challenges, but 1st of December, that's our target date, 22 for ESM3.
Thank you.
Okay, many thanks. If we have further questions, please press the button, raise your hand. Oh, now we have Frederick. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi again. This is a very, very basic question. I was just wondering, because one of my colleagues asked me this question before I participated in this event. Why is it called the Orion capsule and not the Artemis capsule, like the Apollo capsule was named after the Apollo program?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I know the history behind that. I'm looking at other folks here in the room with me who might have that information. I did not name the spacecraft, so I don't have the history behind the naming of Orion.
Maybe from ESA?
Philippe, if you know.
Yep.
Or Howard.
Please come to the mic, yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, thanks. Howard Hugh, I'm a Deputy Program Manager for Orion. I've been on program for a while. You know, we did not have the Artemis program or enterprise when we started building Orion. You know, Philippe mentioned 2011 when we started talking with ESA relative to their contributions and how can they work with us to explore going forward in the deep space. And so at that time, you know, we had various missions that we're looking at from an agency perspective. And the name of Orion, you know, I think, I can't tell you the original discussion, but it was a idea relative to how we were going to go about framing. We were originally called, a long time ago, if you remember, Constellation Program. If you remember, we were the CEV, Crew Exploration Vehicle. And then as Constellation went through cancellation, if you remember in 2010, or if you didn't know about that, but we did go through cancellation period. At that time when we were reformulating the program, we became the multi-purpose crew vehicle. And at the time, the program decided we needed a name, and through various means, and I don't actually remember, so I can't answer directly, but we came up with Orion as our name for the program. So hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you. So if you have further questions, you can also simply unmute and ask your questions. Do we have further questions, please? Okay, we are waiting for further questions. Andreas, one for you. So as we are going ahead with the shipment of ESM2, what is the status or what are the next steps? Maybe you have some views on the test campaign, which might be quite challenging, as this ESM2 is the first ESM transporting astronauts to the moon, because ESM1 is the test flight uncrewed. So have you some indication on this?
So I think Kathy mentioned it already, what kind of tests we have to go through over the next months to come. We know a little bit about the test sequences, and you mentioned that on ESM1. You can imagine it's even, let me put it this way, harder. Everything what we are doing in space is about quality. I used to work for the aviation industry or military aviation first, and I always said, safety first. When you fly an aircraft, it's all safety first. And then I'm doing now space for a few years, and I had to learn hard that this is about a different quality. Why? Because you go out in space where you have harsh conditions. You cannot call it back. You don't have a maintenance, a callback scenarios in order to repair something. And here, when we talk about ESM2, it's the first time, as you said, that we have astronauts on board. So it's safety first for the astronauts, and safety first in a very, very harsh conditions in space. You have radiation, you have thermal cycles, you have incredible accelerations and noise to the rocket, and everything has to work and function. So I don't know exactly about the test sequences, but I can tell you, coming back also to the previous question, I think we have to ship now ESM2 now as quickly as possible, and it will not just stand there until somebody walks by and say, oh, there's ESM2, let's do something with it. So we shift it, and we have a sequence of tests qualification test. The first test will be to check whether everything is fine after the transport, because we are moving this 8-ton masterpiece vehicle in an Antonov to United States. So this will be the first test, then pressure test again. We have valve test, then we have the mating, and then the system test after it's mated with the crew capsule and all that. So I'm sure Kathy can amend and correct me, but it will be a busy schedule, and of course, failure is not an option because we have astronauts on board.
And if I could add, so when it arrives at the Kennedy Space Center, it'll go through some post-shipment checks, and then the crew module adapter, or CMA as we call it, which is the interface between the service module and the crew module, that is ready for integration today. So as soon as we get the service module at the Kennedy Space Center and finish its post-shipment checks, we'll be integrating with the crew module adapter, and then eventually with the crew module for full integration. And then every step of the way, when we do that integration, we do a level of testing to make sure that the spacecraft is continuing to function in the way we anticipate. Once we get it fully assembled and integrated, then we'll do another round of environmental testing and vibration testing before eventually we ship it to another facility at the Kennedy Space Center for all of the commodity loading. So the process is not as simple as, hey, it's done and we send it out the door. There's a lot of more work to do on the integrated spacecraft ahead of us.
Thank you. The situation at Cape Canaveral should be very exciting to have next week ESM-1 already, I think, integrated with the crew capsule and already at the launcher SLS, and then the second spacecraft is coming. So how's the situation? How's the mood in Cape Canaveral? Kenny.
It's even more exciting for those of us in Orion than that, because also next week, the pressure vessel for the Artemis 3 spacecraft, Orion spacecraft, also arrives at the Kennedy Space Center. So there's going to be 3 Orion spacecraft in various stages of assembly and integration at the Kennedy Space Center next week. We're hugely excited to see that, because to us, that means that the Artemis class missions are up and running, and then we're going to be launching soon.
Cool. Sounds really good. Thank you, Kathy. So we have Antoine. Please go ahead, Antoine.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
ESM-1 is for an uncrewed mission, and ESM-2 will be for the first crewed mission. Is there any technical difference between ESM-1 and ESM-2?
Yeah, good question.
I can take it, but Nico is going to correct me or amend me. So the basic spacecraft is probably the same. However, since there is no crew on board of ESM-1, we don't have, for example, the same water and oxygen transported. We don't have the same loading levels as we have then with the crew on board. I would answer that. But basically the spacecraft itself, the number of thrusters, the former space shuttle engine, the propulsion subsystem, the solar arrays, and you name it, whatever equipment is on board is pretty much the same. Is that correct?
Correct. So all functionalities will be tested during the first flight. We have also a much lower propellant loading because the first mission is only a lunar flyby mission, so less propellant is needed. But otherwise, all functionalities and will be tested during the first mission.
Thank you.
The TLS. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We would have time for one more question. Do we have one more question? No. Okay. Yeah, exciting times. We see that the first moon mission is coming to reality, especially in Florida at Kennedy Space Center, but also from Bremen and other areas in Europe. We are fully involved in the mission. We are proud of that. So many thanks for your time. Then I will close the press briefing. I would like to thank you for your interest. If you have further questions, please address them to media@esa.int or to myself. Thank you very much and have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all.